Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating idea that basically reframes our entire experience of life. It uses these powerful metaphors from the world of technology and, believe it or not, video games to explain what's happening when reality itself feels like it's getting a massive system upgrade.
So let's start with a feeling I think we all know. That deep, knot-in-your-stomach feeling you get right before a huge life change. Maybe it's about your finances or your career. But what if that intense fear isn't a warning sign that things are about to go terribly wrong? What if it's actually a signal that your personal reality is kicking into overdrive to prepare you for something bigger?
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll define what we mean by the game of reality. Then we'll get into the system's big shift. After that, we're going to look at fear as a kind of loading screen, get our hands on a new OS manual, and finally, wrap our heads around how the future actually starts to play the present. So, let's jump right in. Okay, so to even begin to understand this shift, we first have to get on the same page about the system we're all operating in. The source material asks us to imagine that our reality is basically a super advanced video game, and this game has three core components. Okay, check this out. This slide breaks down who we are into three totally distinct parts. First, you've got I. Think of I as the real player, the true consciousness that's actually choosing the next level. Then there's me. Me is the avatar, the character on the screen who's feeling all the emotions, thinking all the thoughts. And finally, you have the PRU, the physical rendering engine. This is the game engine itself, like Unreal or Unity, that's rendering everything you see and experience. Now here's the kicker. The me that you think you are every single day, it's not actually in control. It's just the user interface for experiencing the game.
So, with that whole game set up in our minds, here is the absolute core of this idea. The entire system, the whole game, is getting a fundamental overhaul. The very logic of how your reality gets rendered is being completely flipped on its head.
This right here is the whole ball game. On the left, you see the old OS. That's what we're used to. The past creates the present, and the present creates the future. It's all based on memory and what's happened before. But look at the new OS on the right. It is totally inverted. A pre-existing future log gets decoded to create your present moment, and the past just becomes a record of what's already been rendered. I mean, let that sink in. The arrow of time is literally flipping direction. Right, so if the entire operating system of your reality is being rewritten from the ground up, what does that actually feel like for the avatar, for the me? Well, it feels like total chaos. It feels like this intense system-level fear. And this is where the source material gives us this brilliant metaphor. It describes this intense anxiety as the system's loading screen. You know when you're playing a graphics-heavy game and it's loading a massive new world? The screen might freeze for a second, maybe it goes black, and you can hear the fan in your console or PC just roaring, kicking out all this heat. Well, that heat, that noise, that's the fear we feel. And this is the big reframe. That panic you might feel about your bank account, that dread about what's coming next, it's not a signal that you're failing or that doom is on the horizon. It's the sound of the system maxing out its processors to load your next level. That fear is actually the sound of progress. Here's another really powerful metaphor. Fear can also be a kind of error message. It pops up when me, our little avatar, tries to click on a familiar shortcut, an old survival strategy, an old way of being, an old identity. But that whole world file has already been deleted in the system upgrade. The anxiety you feel is the system telling you, file not found. Okay, so this is all great, but if we're in the middle of this massive system upgrade, how are we supposed to actually operate? The old instruction manual is totally useless. We need a new one for this brand new OS.
The new OS runs on something called a future log. Just think of it like a giant zip file that has the entire blueprint for your next reality already inside it. And I mean everything, from your money and opportunities to all those weird little synchronicities. The most important part is this. I, your true self, the player, has already chosen and downloaded this file. The system's only job is to decompress and install it. Your job, as me, is just to experience the installation.
So what does the new user manual look like? It's basically 4 simple steps. 1. Fear shows up. You don't panic, you just recognize it for what it is. System noise from that big file decompressing. 2. A button appears in front of you. This is the most obvious next step, right now. It could be an email to answer, a phone call to make, a sudden idea. 3. You just press the button. You take that action without trying to game out all the future consequences. And 4, and this is so important, You do not interfere. Trying to force a specific outcome based on old fears is like smashing your keyboard while your computer is installing new software. You're just going to freeze the whole system.
This one sentence is pretty much the entire new manual. Your job as me is no longer to strategize and plan for survival based on what happened in the past. Your only job is to interact with the user interface that shows up for you in this exact moment. The grand cosmic plan, that's not your department anymore.
Now, when you really start to operate this way, when you follow these new instructions, your entire role in this game of reality begins to change. You stop being the struggling character trying to fight your way through the level. See, because that future log is already a complete, finished file, you're not actually building towards some unknown destination anymore. You are, in a very real sense, just watching a pre-rendered movie of your life unfold. The now that you're experiencing is simply the playback, frame by frame, of a future that already exists. And this brings us to the final, incredible shift in identity. The struggle just ends. It ends when me, the avatar, finally accepts its new role. You get to sit back, watch the movie of your life unfold with curiosity, and just experience the sensations, trusting completely that the director, your true self, I, has got it all handled. You're shifting from a stressed-out player to a captivated member of the audience.
So the next time you feel that intense loading screen anxiety, that system heat, maybe the question to ask isn't, oh no, what's about to go wrong, but rather, wow, what incredible new world is my system working so hard to render for me right now? That's it for this explainer.